Saul R. Korey, his enduring legacy.
In 1955, Albert Einstein College of Medicine opened its doors, thereby establishing the first medical school under Jewish auspices. The new medical school's leadership was comprised of some of the medical field's most luminary figures. As the institution's founding professor of medicine, Dr. Irving London sought to recruit leading experts to his department who could help Einstein become a distinguished research medical school from its very start. Among the individuals that Dr. London sought out was a young neurologist named Saul Korey. At age 37, Dr. Korey had already established himself as a member of the faculty of the neurology service at Case Western Reserve Medical School in Cleveland.
When Saul joined us, we were the strongest advocates of the importance of bringing to clinical medicine the strengths of modern biology, of molecular biology, cell biology, genetics, cancer biology, radiation oncology, and so forth.
Korey had met London when he was completing his neurology residency at the Neurologic Institute of Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center. At the time, Dr. London, who was a hematologist, was pursuing a basic science fellowship studying the hemoglobin molecule. The two would often talk about the importance of science informing clinical practice. So after completing his residency, Saul Korey followed London's example, spending 3 years doing a fellowship in basic neurochemistry. He also wrote his first book on the topic of pituitary adenomas.
For a clinician to go into the lab for 3 years and do basic science. And this was unheard of. This was the MD PhD of the 1950s, if you will, which didn't exist at that time.
Dr. London was successful in recruiting Korey back to New York, and the duo was among the most active members of Einstein's founding faculty. Both men believed that the College of Medicine, in addition to shaping a top crop of new physicians, should also be a leading medical research institution.
The two of them talked, and Dr. Korey made this seminal statement, "Harvard, move over." In other words, Einstein was going to be a research medical school right from the beginning, and a very good one.
Toward that goal, Dr. Korey recruited graduates of the Neurological Institute residency, including Leib Scheinberg, Robert Katzman, Isabel Rappin, and Elliot Weitzman, as attending physicians to run the first-rate neurology service and residency at Einstein affiliate Jacobi Medical Center, and to conduct research. His first neurology resident was Dr. Herbert Vaughan, a cognitive neurophysiologist who later succeeded Dominic Perper as director of Einstein's Rose F. Kennedy Center.
Saul was a very commanding person. I think in a sense he was a determined individual, so that the kind of science he wanted to do had great appeal.
Dr. Korey also recruited many freshly minted basic investigators from fields including organic chemistry, neuropathology, neurophysiology, and neuropsychology. In this way, he started innovative multidisciplinary basic research focused on a variety of human ailments, which included Tay-Sachs and Alzheimer's diseases.
I was a biochemistry postdoc at Einstein, working on the 3rd floor on steroids, and Saul asked me, how about coming down to join his department and do chemistry on a neurological problem? And I told him at that time, Dr. Korey, I don't know anything about neurology. I'm a chemist. And he says, that doesn't matter. I'll teach you all you need to know.
He was obviously a neurologist, but he went further than that. He was also interested in how the chemistry of the brain affects the various diseases that you consider neurological, and what one could study to improve the performance of the neurology department.
His philosophy is that we would not understand disease until we understood what was happening at the level of cells and of molecules within cells. And so this is why he was so himself invested in studying the basic science of human disease. He was also well aware that one person alone would have too narrow a view and that you had to bring together people with training in different technologies and in different aspects of disease in order to enrich and cross-feed knowledge across disciplines. This was already translational research long before that term had even been coined. It was multidisciplinary research.
The most important thing about Saul's involvement with Einstein was the creation of a model in which departments may exist, but there was to be a lot of interdisciplinary work, with biochemists talking to physiologists, and physiologists discussing things with structural biologists, etc. And this kind of a model was very important, and it became a template for thinking about not just interdisciplinary, but what I would refer to as transdisciplinary, that not only with people, but that they incorporated each other's work in many of their activities. And so Saul, in his own interests in gangliosides and their chemistries, was a pioneer in developing these programs. Back in the late 50s and early 60s, these models did not exist in 80% of the medical centers in the country. And so it was a very important beginning. And I think that continues to be a strong driving force for the development of programs in the institution. It is now almost commonplace to think of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary work.
He had changed the image of neurology. He was the first translational researcher that appeared before translational research was in vogue. He asked the clinical questions, he went into the lab, and he began to address them.
In 1958, Dr. Korey submitted an interdisciplinary grant designed to support postdoctoral fellows in the neurosciences, including neurosurgery and psychiatry. The grant was designed to bring in distinguished visiting professors who gave lectures and interacted with interested fellows. The grant received support for 37 years and was a key factor in the establishment of Einstein's Department of Neuroscience in 1974.
One of the important things that Saul had developed was the idea of an interdepartmental project grant. And when the time arrived here, one of the first interdepartmental training grants in neurology and psychiatry and behavior was established at Einstein.
It was about training behavioral scientists to do basic research. And that was, again, very unusual. Dr. Korey was very interested in the behavioral consequences of neurologic disease.
The interdisciplinary program was designed to bring people of different disciplines of science and brain chemistry and so on together. But that didn't mean that you actually had to work together, but you worked simultaneously on similar problems. So it brought scientists like myself together with neurologists who weren't necessarily well-versed in fundamental chemistry. So we learned from each other.
Saul's philosophy was simply that of a good scientist. He also had the philosophy of fruitful interaction between basic scientists and clinical scientists, and that's why he organized the department the way he did. So there was a constant interaction between those two branches, which in other places sometimes become well separated.
The central focus of Korey's influence here really relates to his ability to build translational programs. He really wanted to use science to understand human disease. That legacy really lives on. I think it's one of the major themes that has been evident here, not only in the way people collaborate between labs at Einstein, but also in terms of the really great deal of translational work that has occurred.
Saul's continuing influence on the department and its evolution can really be traced back to this concept called translational medicine. And this is a concept that was coined in the last 10 or 15 years. to talk about bench to bedside and bedside to bench scholarship. But Korey was doing this in the 50s. Korey did not want anything that was being studied in biology not to have relevance to patients. And this was a revolutionary concept that you could study simple organisms and extract insights to be used eventually to treat patients with new therapeutic agents that could revolutionize their care. What Saul believed in was incorporating areas that traditionally were not in neurology as areas of scientific disciplines. So he brought in neuropsychologists, he brought in statisticians, he brought in people that worked in areas that traditionally were not part of the armamentarium of people working in biomedical sciences. I think his influence and what would he be most proud of was that we've continued his tradition of bringing in non-traditional people to work in the field. And because of that, we've gotten explosive insights into biological mechanisms of complex as how the brain developed, how it evolved, how it responds to disease, etc.
Dr. Korey also had a central role in convincing the College of Medicine's first dean, Dr. Marcus Kogel, and its board of overseers that Einstein needed a basic science research building. From this vision, the Ullman Research Center for Health Sciences was established. And while Dr. Korey was intently involved in its construction, he died of cancer in 1963 at age 45, just months before the building opened.
The death of Saul Korey was one that plunged not only his family into grief, but the department, the school, the friends who were very devoted and loyal to him, and people realized that we had lost a great man.
Today, 50 years since his too early departure, whether walking the halls of Forsheimer where Dr. Korey had his lab, visiting the neurology or neuroscience departments whose beginnings bear his impressive vision, or walking around the circular floors of Ullman, Dr. Korey's presence can still be felt at Einstein. At every turn, his enduring legacy continues to guide us.
Working in the department of Saul Korey, you immediately realize the immense ability that collaborations will bring out. What Saul is brought everything together and made it a team and addressed the fundamentals of a disease and then bring it to the next level, to the next doc, who will take it a step further and a step further. So after Saul, there was Bob Katzman and Bob Terry and Ladine and the Suzukis and Nico Moshe and Mark Mailer and Steve Walkley. And we keep on going and going, and we keep increasing the number of people who are emulating his work.
If Saul was alive today, what he would be most surprised and pleased would be, number one, that neurology is a very vibrant department. I mean, it's one of the largest in the country. It also is a department that, even though it's considered a clinical department, really straddles the fence between basic science and clinical medicine. We're also very much enmeshed in basic science research, and our faculty collaborate with people in every discipline of basic and clinical sciences, work with every disease center, and I think the insights that we've been able to achieve in terms of new therapies, new understanding of disease pathogenesis, has really been a result of things that, Saul really set in motion.
We have this theme as part of Einstein. It's called Science at the Heart of Medicine. When I read those words, I think of Korey, because this is the theme that Korey had in his mind back in 1957. And it's the theme that he put in the minds of Isabel Rappin and Herb Vaughan and Herb Schomburg and Bill Norton and all the other incredible people that he recruited to this institution. So Science at the Heart of Medicine is fitting with the legacy that Korey left this institution.